Good morning, students. We will continue with the particular topic, why do we fall ill? Organ specific and tissue specific manifestation. In last class, I had told you that the point of entry of microbes and the tissue and the organ that it is infecting are correlated. Suppose if a microbe is entering through the nose, it's likely to infect the respiratory system. Whereas if it is entering through the gut, the mouth, it is likely to infect the gut. If the microbes enter through sexual contact, they spread to lymph nodes all over the body like HIV. Now, what are these lymph nodes? Lymph nodes are structures that has got the presence of WBC to fight against a foreign organism. Now, these lymph nodes might be present in the head region, neck region, or in the armpit region. So, usually, if the microbe spreads through sexual contact, they spread to the lymph node all over the body. Even in HIV, we see they are infecting the lymph nodes. If they enter through mosquito bite, they may enter the liver and to RBCs like malaria causing microbes. So, if the plasmodium is the one that is causing malaria, so they may enter liver and to RBCs. They may reach the brain like Japanese encephalitis virus that causes brain fever. Now, what is brain fever? Brain fever is nothing but inflammation of the brain. It means swelling up of the brain. Because of this brain fever, it might lead to seizures, a lot of confusion, memory loss. So these are few of the symptoms of the brain fever. Thus, the signs and symptoms of a disease will depend upon the tissue or organ targeted by the microbes. And even the signs and symptoms depend upon the tissue that is targeted. If the target is the lungs, then the symptoms will be cough and breathlessness. If the target is liver, then jaundice may occur. If the target is brain, headache, vomiting, fits, or nothing but the seizures or unconsciousness may occur. These are few of the symptoms, signs and symptoms based on which particular tissue or organ a microbe is infecting. In addition to these organ-specific and tissue-specific effects of infectious disease, there are other common effects too which depend on body's immune system. Don't think only these particular signs and symptoms are seen. There are many more. Okay, it depends upon individual's immune system also. Under few cases, few of them might have a weak immune system. It depends upon the diet, what they consume. So there are several factors that leads to the signs and symptoms also. Principles of treatment. When we get an infectious disease, our doctor may prescribe different medicines for treatment that work differently. Following are the two ways to treat infectious disease. Now, when it comes to treatment, we usually go to doctor. And the doctors usually prescribe medicines for the treatment. Now, what basis do they treat the infectious disease? First of all, they try to reduce the effects of the disease by providing a particular treatment so that the symptoms can be reduced. The symptoms are usually because of inflammation. I told you inflammation is nothing but whenever a microbe is infecting a particular tissue or organ, body's immune system is triggered. Now it recruits or gathers the cell to fight against that particular microbe. And this is nothing but the inflammation. And because of which an individual might have body pain, they might have fever, etc. For example, we can take medicines that bring down fever, reduce pain or lose motion, or take complete rest to conserve energy. but it will not kill the disease causing microbe. Therefore, disease would not be cured completely. First of all, when a microbe is infecting, to reduce the effects of the disease, these are the few things that can be followed. Either you can take complete rest or take a particular medicine to reduce the effect of the inflammation. Due to modern technology and advancement in science, we have antibiotics and other medicines to cure diseases. But there are few limitations that are normally faced while treating an infectious disease. I had told you antibiotics, they work against bacteria but not against virus. These limitations or disadvantages of infectious diseases are as follows. Once someone has disease, his body functions are damaged and may never recover completely. The treatment will take time. It means that someone suffering from a disease is likely to be bedridden for some time, even if proper treatment is given. See, if an individual is having a disease, so what happens is body functions may be damaged. So because of which an individual takes some time for himself or herself to recover, and the treatment will be taken. So for a person to recover completely and to conserve the energy, an individual has to take the bed rest for some time even after a treatment is given. The person suffering from an infectious disease can serve as a source for further prevention, spread of infection to other people, thus multiplying the difficulties mentioned above. So an individual who is suffering from an infectious disease, they are a probable source of spreading the infection. So they need to take the utmost care. So these are the few of the limitations or disadvantages of infectious diseases. Methods to prevent diseases. General ways of preventing infectious diseases. These ways are mostly related to exposure to infectious microbes. Public hygiene is also necessary. To kill the cause of the disease. Taking medicines that kill microbes is the best way for the complete recovery from a particular disease. So it is essential that medicines specific to a disease causing microbe is taken. Usually we see that it is better to take a medicine that kills that particular microbe. Otherwise, it will take a very long time for a person to recover from the disease. For example, for the treatment of bacterial disease, antibiotics can be taken by the patient that block essential biochemical pathway of bacteria without affecting our own. So, to prevent these bacterial diseases, antibiotics can be taken. So, it stops the cell wall synthesis. Similarly, there are drugs that can kill protozoans such as malarial parasites. It is harder to make antiviral medicines because viruses have a very few biochemical mechanism of their own. We know virus acts as a link between living and non-living because outside the body of host it is non-living, but whereas inside the organism it is living. So only once inside the host it acts as living, so it uses the host machinery to multiply itself. That's why it has got very few biochemical mechanism of their own. They enter our cells and use our machinery for completing their life processes. This means that there are relatively few virus specific targets to aim at, because they are using our machineries to multiply, right? So it becomes very difficult to create a drug to destroy the virus. However, effective and antiviral drugs like the drugs that keeps HIV infection under control are now available. Principles of prevention. The prevention of infectious disease. The practices adopted for prevention of diseases that are related to environment are given in table below. For airborne microbes, the practices by providing living conditions that are not overcrowded. It is always said that prevention is better than cure. So it is better to prevent the diseases. Now, for airborne diseases, we see that living in a proper condition where overcrowding is not there, that would be suitable to prevent the airborne microbes. Waterborne microbes. By providing safe drinking water, this is done by treating the water to kill any microbial contamination. So purifying the water before it is supplied, okay, and boiling the water before drinking. So all these are few practices by means of which waterborne diseases can be prevented. Vector-borne microbes. By providing clean environment which would prevent breeding of mosquitoes. So infection of the malarial disease can be stopped when breeding of mosquito is completely stopped. So if clean environment is provided, then the breeding is prevented. Now, some other principles for the prevention are, there are some general principles for prevention and there are specific principles of prevention. Today we will just take up the general principles for prevention. Strong immune system. The immune system of a body normally fights against a microbe that enter into a body and kills them. If the immune system is successful, we do not actually come down with any disease. So as long as the immune system is strong, we need not worry about any disease. The cells of the immune system kill off the microbes before it can take a major proportion. So the WBCs fight against the disease causing organism. As we know, if the number of injecting microbe is less, then a manifestation of the disease will be minor. So the less number of microbe is infecting an individual, then the manifestation of the disease also will be very less. In other words, becoming exposed to or infected with an infectious microbe does not necessarily mean developing noticeable disease. Just because just because microbe is attacking you, it means you have got infected with disease. No. If your immune system is strong, you can fight against it, and it also depends upon number of microbes that is infecting an individual. If the number is very negligible, then the individual's immune system will drive away the harmful microbes. Balanced diet. Immune system will not function properly if sufficient amount of food and nourishment is not available. So if sufficient food and nourishment is not available, then how will an individual have a good immune system? So it is important to take a well balanced diet. Therefore, availability of proper and sufficient food for everyone is a basic principle of prevention. So an individual needs to take well-nourished diet so that he or she can build up the immune system and fight against the disease.